Sweet, we are rolling. Cool beans.
Awesome. Welcome to episode 2.
We came up with a name. Actually, you came up with a name.
We did. Welcome to episode 2 of Patent Pending.
Patent Pending. Yeah.
A podcast by creatives.
For creatives in the greater Las Vegas area.
Yeah, we're going to start with Las Vegas and we'll see where we go.
Yeah, for sure. I think the first episode was sick, and I'm very surprised on how many people looked at it.
Yeah, got a pretty good response of people actually watching it, and now we have the audio version up.
Yeah.
So you don't have to sit there on the YouTube app, which is not very ideal.
Yeah, it was a weird feeling. My friend's like, "Oh, that sounded awesome. Thank you so much." I'm like, "Okay, cool."
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you guys so much. I feel like that kind of got the ball rolling quite a bit, and I feel even more motivated than I did previously to just, keep doing this as much as possible. Yeah, man. So how was your week?
My week was good.
Anything fun work-wise?
I'm trying to think. What did I do last week? No, I'm drawing a blank on what I...
All good.
Oh, yeah. No, I shot one of my clients is cosmetics. So beauty, skincare, things of that nature, wrinkle creams. So I had a shoot for them, which I do monthly.
Is that like a product shoot, or are you doing more like product being in use?
A little bit of both. So it is more application shots than just products. So like applying the wrinkle cream or, like bags into your eyes, pads.
Is that what they're called?
I don't I should probably know more because like I said, I shoot from monthly, but
as long as the photos look good.
Yeah,
you don't need to know
it's in the beauty
that much.
realm. So yeah, it's more application showing the progression of their products being used and then working, obviously.
Nice.
And then I also had a couple of shoots for UFC light heavyweight, Tyson Pedro, which was cool. And I think that was pretty much it. It was a pretty light week last week.
Nice.
What about you?
Just the usual stuff. I got to shoot the Deftones for a lighting company called Avo Lights, which was pretty rad. They're based out of London, so I got linked up with them through another lighting director here in town. So
Nice.
Shouts out Ed, thank you. And
Where'd they play?
they played at the Chelsea at the Cosmopolitan.
Nice.
Which is cool. It's my second show shooting there. And it's the Deftones, so the crowd was super lively, and I didn't realize how much that floor flexes.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, it's like kind of like I did some video too, and I'm standing and I'm shaking. It's so crazy. It's like for like a second, you're like, is this supposed to be happening?
Yeah, I've only been there. I've been there twice. I saw Brand New there years ago, and then we recently saw Bill Burr do a stand-up there.
Nice.
But no floor shaking.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what else I did. And then outside of that, I just did the normal stuff. I did a commercial shoot for a nightclub here in town.
Okay.
Just like some promo photos, like editorial stuff with the girls. I have to do the second part of that today. Yeah. And then, are you going to be busy this weekend? I know this weekend's going to be pretty...
This week will be busy.
Yeah.
Going into the weekend, I got... I'll be on a production shoot tomorrow and Wednesday at the Wynn. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I have some stuff for the NFL draft in town, which should be pretty cool. It should be a pretty busy week.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've never had that before in town, which is the NFL draft. So I'm doing the fights at MGM for Al, so that'll be cool.
Nice. That's Friday?
Saturday. Weigh-ins are Friday, pressers on Wednesday, fight is on Saturday.
Is that the card that Nico's on?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So it's gonna be pretty rad.
That'll be nice. That's at MGM?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and then other than that, just like normal nightclub stuff, Oh, I have a food show on Friday too, which will be sick.
Nice. What kind of food?
Yeah. Seafood. It's at the Wynn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just pretty standard stuff.
Right. Some
We've been postponing it for the last like 3 weeks.
some what is it? Some oysters on ice.
Seafood tower, I think is one of them. Yeah, and then oysters, and then the other one, probably a lobster or something.
Throw on a lobster.
Yeah.
It's seafood. So, what would be your bread and butter as far as genre of photography?
So I think bread and butter would be events and music, live music. Like I said on the last podcast, I got my start freelancing. It was a lot of nightlife.
Mm-hmm.
Still do quite a bit of nightlife, but luckily that's transitioned more into artists and events as well. And then outside of that, I'm starting to shoot more and more editorial and commercial and food and beverage. And, those are kind of some more facets that I'd like to do more. I'm really grateful for all the work I have, but I think, next 5 years it'd be cool to be fully out of nightlife.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just because I love it, but it's like, it would be cool to have like some sort of normal schedule, be home at night.
Yeah, the schedule is pretty rough.
Yeah, especially when I'm doing a lot of commercial shoots and food and beverage stuff. That's usually first thing in the morning. So then sometimes I have to lose a night gig to do the day gig.
Right.
Which is okay because the day gigs usually pay way more. But if I can make that money up in other facets where I could just totally not do the night stuff. But I say that, but most concerts are at night, and I'll always shoot concerts. But
right.
Yeah. What about you? What do you shoot the most? What do you pay your bills with?
What I pay my bills with would easily be elopements and like micro weddings.
Mm-hmm.
I've carved out a pretty cool, I stole that word from you, by the way, carved out. I've carved out a pretty cool little lane. A lot of people coming into town want the kind of dingy, iconic Vegas at the chapel with, the neon lights and the, Cadillac car kind of thing. And usually they'll dress up in something cool. So I've kind of found that lane of micro weddings and elopements. So that's definitely 90% of my work, I'd say, nowadays.
That's something that I envy a lot of your work is it has so much style and like grit and feel, and I could totally see why people book you for that stuff because it's different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you look at your work and you're like, oh, that's Sean's work. Like, which is rad.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to think so. Sometimes I don't when people are like, oh, I like your style or this and that. And I'm like, what is my style? Because it's nice to hear other people view something and have a different take on things.
Yeah, I mean, your style is cool because you can see it in your photography, but then also it oozes out of like you too. Like you can see it like in your house.
Right.
You can see it in your lifestyle. It's rad. It's
Thanks.
cool. I feel like I'm a little more like cookie cutter. Like I have a style and stuff, but like I still feel like I'm looking for my style,
Yeah, but your style is clean and crisp though, so there is still some merit to that because I look at that from my end of the spectrum and I say the same thing, like, man, those photos are just so sharp, those photos are so on point.
Thanks, man.
So
yeah,
it's always,
for sure,
the grass isn't always greener.
Yeah, or at least it seems.
Right, yeah.
But what are some stuff that you shoot so you said micro weddings, elopements. Is there anything that you'd like to, I know you touched last time that you want to do more stuff with lighting. Is how you feel that you still want to do more stuff that way?
Yeah, because I've always, like I said, I've always kind of done things in the garage or like a little bit more creative portraits, if you will, with like lighting. But I'd like to kind of venture and take the creative portraiture into like the editorial or like a casino realm, right? Like that's what would be, and that lane would be the next step of like doing something, for like not an actual client, but for a bigger client versus just a singular person and like headshots or,
I get what you're saying, yeah. Well, I mean, you're kind of doing that now though, right? Because you're doing that stuff over at Win. Yeah,
well so I am on a set for that, but that's not my baby necessarily.
Yeah,
just
well,
cool.
I mean, your foot's in the door though.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're not trajectorying to get there,
Yeah.
So like you're doing a great job.
But I would say in the lighting sense of things, probably something more in that realm of bigger projects in that. But yeah, I'd say bread and butter, and what pays most of the bills is the elopements and micro weddings.
Nice. Which is crazy because I don't think I actually knew that. I knew you did it a lot, but if I had, gun to my head, I'm like, actually, I don't really know what Sean makes most of his money off of.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, it's weird because you're the same way, because we shoot quite a few genres. I don't really stick to one or the other, because I know that like my audience or people viewing my work are from quite a few things. So I don't necessarily cater to one or the other. I just kind of show off what I'm doing. But in particular, weddings, I don't. It's more so on Pinterest, just because I know the market that's on Pinterest is searching for those things, whereas like Instagram is not necessarily
as much,
I would say.
Yeah, I think every time I've shot a wedding or engagement photos, like, oh, can you look at my board? Was it called a board?
Yeah.
Pin board or something?
Yeah, I think it's a pin board, yeah.
Yeah, sick. So that makes total sense. And that's something that I feel not nearly as comfortable doing as music. I like music and events because I'm pretty outgoing if I need to be, but if I don't have to be, like, I'm all about putting in earplugs or AirPods and just doing my thing and being a fly on the wall. So that's why I used to shoot weddings, but I felt super uncomfortable doing it, and that's something I don't feel very comfortable doing now. I'll do friends' weddings, which is cool because I feel more comfortable because I know them and they trust me, and I already have that rapport. For instance, I'm doing one in Tahoe in August.
That'll be sick.
Yeah, and it's a friend, so it's like super. It's less stressful, and then I turn it into a vacation with the girlfriend.
There you go. Make a little weekend out of it.
Yeah. Is there anything you feel uncomfortable shooting?
Uncomfortable shooting, yes and no. So I will say, like, a part of shooting that is uncomfortable would be, for instance, like nightlife. And the reason why, what I'm getting at is because of this schedule is so high paced. You got to be at 10 places at once. You got to get the right angle at the right moment of the right thing to show off. For example, if you're shooting a nightclub, you want to show off a packed nightclub, even when the nightclub may not be packed. Or you want to show that everyone is having the time of their life, even though, you're just kind of drunk throwing your hands up. Or, this same thing, like this DJ is like, oh, this is the spot to be right here, right now. You're missing out. So uncomfortable in the sense of still juggling all of those things with lights, with lighting and camera, and like I said, settings, and being at multiple places. It can be pretty overwhelming. Okay. And then, not to mention you have, in our instance for music and nightlife, the client wants some highlights right then and there. So you have to juggle that too.
Yeah, they want nightly selects or on-site selects, just up for social media, typically.
Yeah. So in that aspect, it's uncomfortable. It's a pace that's kind of tough to get used to if you're not, used to it. And then the other thing, and same thing with shooting elopements, the uncomfortable part would be having to photograph a couple that you don't know and get them to be comfortable in front of the camera that are not usually in front of the camera.
That's my exact thing. Yeah. You don't have that rapport ready, so you have to like quickly make the rapport, make them feel comfortable.
Right.
Which is great, and it's a great niche if you're good at it, because then I'm assuming you're gotten pretty good at it if you keep doing it.
I am, but it's still there is still those hurdles to juggle. Of like, again, we have a limited amount of time. I got to get this couple to loosen up, and I got to get them to forget that the camera's there, all while still getting moments that I am there. So what about you? What is an area that you find uncomfortable, or areas that are a little bit uncomfortable at times?
So kind of what you're saying, but in a different aspect. So I've been doing music and nightlife for 7 years now. So I feel comfortable in those fast-paced environments. But now I'm starting to shoot sports, and it's a completely different fast-paced environment.
Right.
The industry standards are different. The clients are bigger and scarier. For instance, I'm shooting for Al, Powers, local guy here in town.
Shout out
He's
to
like my
Al.
mentor. Yeah, really great guy. Grateful for him. So basically you shoot a boxing match, and as the other guy's walking out, you have to have your selects ready to go. You put them on your computer, you crop them, and then you send them to social media team, all while the other guy's doing his walkout.
Right.
And then you put your laptop away, and they're all JPEGs, which is like huge, which is a lot different than I'm used to.
Right.
It like kills me a little bit on the inside to go from RAW to JPEG, but that's like the industry. Like everyone's like, oh no, it's JPEGs.
Right.
So that's very scary. And then, it's just so fast paced. And then what is also scary is the people that they're not scary. They're just intimidating because sports photography is such a small community of people.
Right.
And, in my short experience doing it, they're all much older than me. I'm just that young kid who like probably doesn't know what he's doing.
Right.
So it's like, I like put a lot of pressure on myself to not, obviously I get insecure. I'm like, well, I don't want to like look like that kid. I don't want to be stupid. So I put just a lot of pressure on myself. I may look cool, calm, collected on the outside, but on the inside I'm sweating.
Freaking out.
Yeah, freaking out a little bit. And Al always says too, though, he's like, if you're not nervous, then you don't care.
I was just going to say, it's not a bad thing. And that's what I'm saying. In my case, like I said, shooting a nightlife or a couple or, any shoot you're on, there is that sort of aspect in the back of your head that like, ooh, keeping you on your toes in a sense.
For sure. Yeah. And then also on the flip side too, sometimes I've not put a second thought into gigs, like especially the stuff that I shoot pretty frequently. Mm-hmm. And then that's the night that like, I'm like, oh shit. Like, am I missing something? Oh, I forgot something at home, Mm-hmm. So that's the flip side to it too. If you're not like overthinking it, sometimes you may not have the same keenness for that shoot. Because what was that?
Oh, I was just like getting a little complacent almost.
Exactly, because it's human error. Like, especially if you're shooting a lot, it's hard to be, on it all the time. Yeah. There's been plenty of times I'm driving down my street, I'm like, oh shit. Turn around, forgot something. Like today, I forgot my sandbags.
Right.
So I'm hoping there's some at the venue.
Yeah, we made it work. Oh, yeah. Gotcha. Yeah,
because I got to go to the shoot right after this.
Yeah, I lost mine years ago. Otherwise,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, like this softbox is missing a grid. That's just shit gets lost.
Fucking piecing it together, hunky dory. So yeah, what are some goals for you for this year?
So some goals for me this year are getting more professional, not necessarily on set or in the workplace. I think I'm, a little bit actually. When I'm doing corporate stuff, I try to wear at least a polo now.
Oh.
Before I would just be like t-shirt.
Right.
And I actually did a conference a few weeks ago. And they're like, oh yeah, just wear your show blacks. I'm like, okay, cool. And I did, and I was the only guy in a t-shirt. I felt kind of bad. So the next day I showed up in a polo.
Right.
But overall more professional in the business side of everything. So I actually just started using my LLC, made a business account, made a company logo, company email, new W-9 with my business EIN opposed to my personal social security number.
Okay.
I'm getting more organized with my taxes. I have heaps and heaps of paperwork in drawers. I bought a filing cabinet.
There you go. Proud of you.
Thanks. I've only done like a third of it. So
you bought it. That's all that matters, right?
Yeah.
Sitting in the office somewhere.
That just kind of buttoning up a few things, being more professional over email. Yeah, because I feel like you could be an amazing photographer, but if you're not great at the business side of things, then you could fall to the side of kind of fall to the back of the pack. And then you could even be just a pretty okay photographer, but if you're really good at the business side of things, you could just, make leaps and strides over other people and other competition in business. So I think I'm a pretty decent photographer. So if I could be a pretty decent business person, then I think I should be okay.
Yeah, I mean, those things definitely do. You got to kind of be well-rounded in that sense. And those are some things I'm learning as well. As more of the administrative side takes up a lot of time. Answering emails and coordinating schedules with 10 to 15 people. It can be a lot. Where certain days where I'm on the computer and I'm doing administrative work and I haven't got to my editing list, let's say, and I feel like half the day's gone and I feel useless because I'm like, I haven't got to my work yet. But it's like, oh, well, I've been replying to emails and coordinating schedules and looking at, decks and things like that. And it's like, oh, dude, like you don't realize how much that sucks up of your time.
For sure. And I just started doing like professional quotes, like an actual quote instead of just like a text message with like, oh yeah, it'll cost this much.
Yeah.
But yeah, the administrative work, responding to emails, quotes, invoices, staying on top of my invoices, it eats up a lot of time for sure. And I do enjoy doing it though, which is cool because I feel like a big boy when I do it.
Get your big boy pants on and you send those invoices and emails.
And quotes. Yeah, it's nice. And it's cool too to be able to bounce that side of the business off of my girlfriend because she does that realm 24/7
right
for work. For me, I'm just the artistic boyfriend. So I'm like, hey, can you like spritz this up a little bit with me? Can you help me? How does this sound? Do I sound drunk?
How does this sound? Delete it all.
Yeah. She's like, we're just gonna start from scratch. So it's cool to have her to bounce stuff off of. And then as far as some other goals I have, I think it kind of matches up with yours. I would like to travel a bit more.
Okay.
Last year was the first year I got to actually like really travel. Not really travel. I traveled the most last year in my career than I've ever have.
Okay.
Which is probably only like 5 gigs out of Las Vegas.
Right.
So I'd like to do more of that. I'd like to shoot more festivals. I did one in Mexico last year. That was amazing. So
nice.
Some more of that would be rad. Yeah. And I'll just shoot more commercial work, I think, in general as well.
Right. Bigger stuff.
You know what? Another goal, I don't reach out to anybody ever.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Which is good. Which is cool that I've like made it this far without having to do that. But I want to learn how to do that. Cold calling in a sense.
Okay.
Like, hey, I've noticed, I've noticed your Instagram's this way. Maybe you need some new content, stuff along those lines.
Yeah, I used to do that a lot, and yeah, thankfully I'm in a place now where I haven't had to. People have been coming to me, whether they're a repeat client or a new client or whatever it may be, and I look back on those things. I'm like, thank God I'm not pitching because that was a huge struggle of mine too. Of how to sound professional, but then also how to how to add value and come off and add value to that particular thing that you're reaching out to. Like you said, like, hey, your photos are looking a little, they could use some updating. I would love to be the person to do that. And so, I don't miss those days of emailing and trying to find the right connection of who the person is to email. I don't miss those days.
I'm really grateful that, 90% of my work's off referrals, It's like, hey, you did a good job and I need somebody, I'll recommend this person. But also there are bigger clients that like, I feel like I could reach out to and potentially, even if I spend, a few hours a week doing that and it only results in 1 or 2 new clients, I think
it doesn't hurt.
Exactly. And then also too, if you get referrals, I feel like you get referrals in that same genre of photography for the most part. So I think maybe that's a great way to branch out into different stuff that you'd like to do, that I would like to do. Yeah, I don't know. Did you find that when you were cold calling people that you did get some work, at least it was still beneficial in some sense?
Looking back, no.
Well, do you think if you did it again with your new knowledge and new skill set that it could be beneficial?
It could be. So I guess I lied. Most of the time, it did not pan out. And that was because in my experience, I've learned trying to get somebody to spend money on something that they don't initially want to spend money on was tough.
Yeah.
You should spend money on some new menu items and showing off your interior space. If they don't already have that in their head, then it's like,
If that's not a problem that they're experiencing currently, then
because they don't see it.
Yeah.
And to be fair,
sure.
like most people don't know what's good or bad for them. So
For sure.
they can look at it and go, I have photos for my Yelp. I don't
Exactly.
need a professional.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe your yellow colored plate is not the best look for your restaurant. But I did also get some things that I initially wouldn't have gotten. Having that conversation opened up of saying, oh wow, okay, I checked out your work and this is really good, and let's schedule a shoot and what are your prices and all those things. And it's like, wow, if I never wrote that message or wrote that email, I wouldn't have had that gig. So there's pros and cons.
I need to make time for it.
Yeah. I think the good part of something like that would be to be proactive and reach out and cold call in case there's a slow season in your experience, right? Where it's like, oh, this month or these months are usually slow, so let me already reach out and set up some new clients for those times.
Yeah, do you feel that Las Vegas has a slow season for your... I mean, I think photography in general, or Las Vegas in general, probably has a bit of a slow season in the holiday season. For us, I think. But if you're shooting more weddings and elopements, do you feel that you have a slow season?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I kind of jog around that because I shoot a number of realms. So I feel like, yeah, like July and August for elopements and weddings will be slow because it's way too hot in Vegas.
For sure.
So if you're listening to this, don't try to book a wedding in July in Vegas. It's way too hot in August. So I think in that aspect, though, that category will be slow. But then the flip side is the nightlife and pool clubs will be busy because it's so hot in Vegas. And then same thing like in December, the obviously pool clubs will be closed and nightlife will probably be kind of slowing down. But then my elopements will be busy. So.
Because I feel like November and December are probably two slower ones. But then you have like Halloween, you're coming off Halloween, and then you have Christmas and New Year's.
But then that's where your events and your, activation shoots would be busy because you have those holidays.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. I think the events slow down, but then you'll have like random stuff too, which is cool. Like last year, for instance, I was busy all the way through, which is nice. But is that, inflated because everyone's ready to do stuff because they're coming off the pandemic?
Right, making up for lost time, lost money.
I think just being professional overall is my main goal. But what about you? I know you said you have kind of some of the same things, but do you have any other goals that you're really focusing on this year?
Other goals, I would like to travel more with photography. Kind of how you mentioned, you got a trip out to Mexico and do a festival. I'd like to do more things like that. Whether it's jumping on a little mini tour with an artist or musician, with a band or DJ and kind of do that. That'd be pretty cool. I'm supposed to fly out to Texas at the end of May for So What in Texas?
Sick.
Yeah, with the Ghost Inside boys. So
nice.
Hopefully y'all book my flight soon. Otherwise,
Otherwise you're driving.
Otherwise it ain't happening. But that'd be cool. And then it's been a goal of mine for quite a while. It just hasn't lined up yet. Is I would love to have a studio space.
Same.
Like a creative studio space. Like now that we're doing this podcast and like I feel like we're starting to get to the point where we have like a little bit of a community in Vegas now between you and I, and like reaching out to other photographers and videographers. I think it'd be cool to have a studio creative collective space.
Totally. I think there are not even growing pains because we're just solving pains.
Right.
Just this podcast, like we would like to have some guests on, but now we're like, where maybe they could sit on our lap.
Yeah, if you're our guest, you either sit on the floor.
Yeah.
And we also got to figure out a mic scenario.
Yeah, so that now opens up a new door where I've been hesitant to wanting a creative space because any sort of client, we could figure it out. We could work around that stuff. But now that we have this, now there's a little more of a need for it. So I think a studio would be cool to have. Yeah. And yeah, because I just want to I really enjoy our community in Vegas of photographers and videographers. You know, I just want to help people and, you know, maybe teach people stuff that they don't know and learn from other people. Yeah. So to have a home base where we could do that with other like-minded people, then that'd be rad.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think so. I think like it'd be cool to have like a big melting pot of different people in different places along their journey is what I'm trying to say. So you could be a beginner, you could be an expert, you could be that 45-year-old guy who's shot sports for the last 20 years, but here you are hanging out with
exactly.
Yeah, we're shooting film or whatever. You know what I mean? So
different stages of their career.
Yeah,
is that the words you're looking for?
Something like that. Yes.
Cool. No, I totally agree because that would be cool because you and I are young and hip, you know, but there's a lot of like guys I learned from, you know, that are older or, you know, because I took, you know, I went to CSN and I took 3 photo classes and then I stopped going.
You didn't complete them?
Well, no, I completed those 3 classes, but I took beginning, which I didn't have to take because I took it in high school. I didn't know that. I took intermediate. Well, I'm like, I know more than you. And then I took a lighting class that was super beneficial. But I remember the peers that I had in those classes were even just middle-aged people who were going back to school and they needed an elective credit and they liked photography. And it was cool to like be in that melting pot with those people. So like even people like that could have a place to go to and learn and yeah, because I'm really, you know, I don't like the competition and like obviously like we all need to eat and make a living. So there is always going to be some sort of competition.
Yeah.
But I really just enjoy that like that community feeling and like we're all here to help each other. And a friend of mine once told me, you know, there's enough work to go around. Like
I think I said that, but yeah.
Oh, well, my friend. Oh, yeah.
Just
it was Dalton Campbell said that. He said that I was helping him move a few years ago, and he told me that. And I was like, dude, that's a really great thought. Because prior to that, I always was in the mindset of like, it's us versus them. Like, fuck that guy. Like, yeah.
And when you start out, or maybe you don't, maybe, times are changing where you start out the opposite. But that's just kind of human nature, right? Like, you want to either be the best you can in whatever you're doing, or you want to get all the work, or you want to be the number one or be better than everyone. That way you're getting that call or that email and getting that work. But it gets to a point where, it's like, who cares? We could all eat. Or like I said, like, I don't know about you, but I've gotten plenty of gigs from other photographers.
Absolutely.
That couldn't shoot or, couldn't shoot or they were busy or it wasn't even their realm to say like, hey, I got into a corporate thing that's not really my wheelhouse, but hey, let me put you in touch. And it's like, wow, like it doesn't have to be competition. Like if someone else is better suited or somebody is in a different city and you're like, well, I'm not going to drive out to LA and shoot this, but hey, Mike is in LA, talk to him.
Well, I was going to say, you and I bounce gigs back and forth between each other. Yeah. Which is sick. Like, and then it's also sick to have people that, because that's another issue. I'll have a gig I can't do, or I'm already booked or whatever, and I offer it to you, and then you're like, oh, I'm booked too. And then I'm like, all right, well then shit. And then you got to start going down your list, because you also don't want to have people that you don't trust.
Right.
So, especially if it's already an established client that you have. Yeah. Because then I'm like, hey dude, what the fuck? Who's that person?
That guy you sent her that,
He was half in the bag and he was fucking late.
Yeah. She showed up and she would,
Yeah, so it's like, and just to meet more people that are like-minded and trustworthy and cool and it's rad. And I think that's why I'm pretty excited about this podcast, because it was nice to like hear from people that I've never met in person, but like we'll go back and forth on Instagram, like, oh, your work's tight, da-da-da. Just like local support, and it's cool to hear from them like, hey man, this was sick. So like if we can like keep building on that community aspect, I think.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's like instead of just talking on the internet or seeing their work and you're stoked for them because they shot, Coachella or they shot this thing and, they're doing the same to you. It's like, well, let's take this further and let's sit down and have a conversation and just get to know each other or just nerd out on the same things, because again, I feel like for me, it's still rare that you do get to meet up with like-minded people and talk about the same things, because everything beforehand has always been competition. I'm better than that person, or they're better than me, or I wish I could be at that level, or, so on and so forth. So it's like, why don't we just, like, again, have a conversation and instead of being
what I'm thinking now is, ironically, I think it was during the pandemic, you, Sam, and I went out and did street photos. We didn't really shoot anything. We just walked around and talked.
Yeah.
We just nerded out and talked the entire time. I think it took like 4 photos.
Yeah. I don't think I took many photos either. I think I took like a,
I think we just hung out and walked and talked. It was cool. So that's kind of like, ironically, that may have been like some sort of like birthing place of this podcast, you know?
Before we knew it, yeah.
Yeah, which is funny. I do remember that there was like a homeless guy that was like all bloody. Do you remember that? Mm-mm. His like face is all fucked up. No, it was really fun. Yeah. Whatever.
How do you deal with burnout or creative rut?
That's a great question. That's still something that I'm like dealing with, because I take on as much work as possible because it's the same thing we just talked about. Like, I feel like I have to, because I don't want, like, I want to like work as much as possible because I feel so grateful that I get offered these opportunities and gigs. So that's still something I'm working on currently, is being able to identify those burnouts. Mm-hmm. Mostly the creative ruts, or like ebbs and flows. I found what helps with creative ruts is shooting something different. And then this is probably not the most efficient way to deal with it, but getting some new gear. Oh. Getting a new lens.
Okay.
I got some of those mist filters, which were cool.
I thought the shot with Joe Wolf recently, and he said you hate those filters.
I do. Yeah. You know what? The mist filters I love.
Okay.
Shooting in low direct sunlight is sick with the mist filters, and then also shooting the chandelier at Omnia with it. It gives it just this real nice glow, which is cool. And then I shot a woman downtown for a local weed company, and we were just doing some product stuff, and it just kind of gave us like nice, warm glowiness to it. Nice. But then I got some Fractal filters, and I used it once. I'm like, I fucking still like this.
Yeah, I got the Fractal filters. To me, they're like hit or miss. Some things look kind of cool and can work, and other things are just like, no, it's too much. But I did pick up a Dream filter recently, which it's a lot more subtle than I thought it would be.
So I think maybe the Dream filter and the mist filters may be the same. Are we talking about the same thing? Does it come in stops of like haziness?
I don't know. I should probably check, because if so, then I've been shooting on the mildest setting, because it's like kind of glowy, but not as much. Like I said, not as much as I thought.
Mine is as 1/8 stop of diffusion.
Oh yeah, I don't think so. I think mine is just Again, I should probably research.
I think we might be talking about the same thing, but yeah. And then how do I deal with burnouts? I kind of just white knuckle through it.
Right.
Like today, I'm on like 4 hours of sleep. But usually a vacation is nice.
Right.
I don't get much of them. I don't allow myself to take as much of them. Especially now, because, we're coming off the pandemic. We weren't working. And then I feel like from May of 2021, I've been going like pretty consistently. Yeah. Which super grateful for.
But you have a vacation coming up though, right? You got a few months.
Oh yeah, in August. At the end of the summer.
So you'll figure it out.
Yeah, we were supposed to go. We're gonna do another one. My girlfriend's about to graduate with her bachelor's, and yeah, hopefully I'll do another one soon. What about you? How do you deal with the same things with the creative ruts, and then also, are you at the point where you can identify when you're being burnt out, and then how do you remedy that?
So we'll start with creative rut, because that's a shorter answer. Luckily, I haven't been in a creative rut in a few years. And I think that's because I shoot quite a few different genres where if I am getting kind of complacent with like elopements, or I'm like, I'm not, in the mood today necessarily, I'm shooting food, or I'm shooting nightlife, or, music, where it's like, okay, cool, this is different than what I just shot. And then vice versa, if I'm a little bit burnt out on the schedule of nightlife or shooting, being around a bunch of drunk people and this and that, it's like, okay, cool, now I have a styled shoot where it's just two people, and you know what I mean, it's a little bit slower paced and things like that. So creatively, I luckily don't. And then also the fact that I've been shooting a lot more film has helped, because again, it like switches from a digital brain to analog brain, and it keeps me busy. Now, as far as burnout, appreciating the highs, knowing that I'll appreciate the lows.
Yeah, that's kind of like, we talked about that last episode. And then you mentioned that you actually had a pretty productive weekend.
Yeah, so for example, this weekend, I had a little portrait session on Friday for a friend. Shout out to Kaylee. And that was like, an hour or so. And then other than that, didn't do any shooting Friday, just editing. Saturday, didn't do any shooting. Hung out with the wife. We went to an event. We actually went to Area 15, which was cool.
Sweet.
And then Sunday, we went to Tea Lounge at Waldorf, which was cool. So it was nice to not work all weekend for once, and also not even worry about editing, because I was pretty caught up on that side of things. And it was just a real relief to be like, cool, I'm not, like, that thing is not on my forecast of like, oh shoot, I got to go to work or I got to shoot, So just taking those little breaks, even if it is for a day or two.
And did you feel, because when I have a lull when I have a lull in work for a few days, like I did the past couple weeks, I felt guilty for not working. I felt as if I was missing out on something, even though I was doing exactly what I wanted to be doing, which was mountain biking and hanging out at home. And it's not even necessarily exactly what I wanted, it's exactly what I needed.
Right.
And I still had a hard time feeling like I was, like I was like, what did I do wrong? Why am I not booked? Why am I like not working this week?
Well, you just need to remind yourself, and it's not always the case as far as, having a schedule ahead of time. But for me, when I did have those few days off, I knew that this week for me in particular is going to be 24/7 basically. So it's like, okay, like I have things on the horizon. So these couple days off are going to be nice, because you're going to be slammed that next week. So
yeah.
I probably would feel the same as you if like I didn't at least have an inclination of like, oh, okay, what do I do? But
yeah, and the fucked up thing is I do have, this work was slammed, and I knew I was gonna be slammed this week, and then this upcoming week I'm gonna be slammed. But even still, I was like, oh man, I don't know. It's just like some weird like insecurity that I'm like, oh dude, like, is this gonna be forever? Like, am I
right? Idle hands at the devil's playground.
Okay, exactly.
But you just gotta remind yourself of those. Take it easy, enjoy this time. Let's go out to dinner. Let's, like I said, let's go hop on the bikes. Let's walk the dogs, because this weekend or these 2 days I have, this, that, and the other booked. And I'm going to be, really putting in those midnight hours. What advice would you give for 18-year-old Mike?
Hang with the fam a little more. I think when I was 18, I was just excited. I mean, I think this is pretty standard, but like, you're like, just stoked to not be at home.
Right. Not be in school. Fuck off. That type of thing, which is all good. But in hindsight, I think I was going through a lot of stuff that I didn't realize it. And I was just hanging out with my friends or going out drinking, just, pushing down some feelings and numbing some feelings that I didn't really realize that I had. Now, 10 years later, now that I'm 28, I'm like, oh shit, maybe, it would have been cool to, or even just like, talk to the family and, that type of thing. Just be more in tune with my feelings, I think, overall. Yeah, but I think it's also tough when you are younger.
For sure.
Because you're not realizing those same things where, same thing. Yvonne and I went to marriage counseling it's been a few years now, but we did it for, I think almost 2 years, and then she eventually kicked us out because we were doing good. But
That's
it was
cool
nice
feeling.
to talk to somebody outside of that to go, okay, well, you should, you could handle this differently, and you could handle this differently, and what are we doing to work on those things? And I was always against like therapy or talking to somebody too, because I thought the same thing. I'm like, well, you don't need that. That's stupid.
Yeah.
We could figure it out ourselves. But then,
just white knuckling it.
yeah, well, then when you actually do talk to somebody else who's in that unbiased standpoint, you're like, oh, shit, I was wrong. Or, oh, wow, yeah, we could have handled that situation better. And it just helps, for me, outside of marriage, it just helps me, myself, be like a better, not a better person, because I'm still a shitty person. No, I'm just kidding. But it does help you kind of handle certain things better. Like handle situations and go, why am I feeling this way?
Yeah, you're almost second guessing. You're like, oh, whoa. Like pump the brakes for a second. Like, oh, totally.
I think those things help like process things.
What about you? What would you tell your 18-year-old self?
As far as like a photography standpoint, I would.
Oh yeah, I just went super deep. I didn't even.
No, you're
I just
good.
skipped totally over photography.
Because I don't really. I think it was. I don't know what I would tell like 18-year-old Sean in general. Because I like just went to shows. I didn't really drink or do anything like that yet.
Yeah.
So that aspect, I don't know. But as far as work or photography, I would say try to find some structure.
Because you were at the time I was lifeguarding and working at a warehouse place, and then is that when you started your electrician?
Yeah, I started literally like a week out of high school. A neighbor called me up and was like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm chilling. Why? And he's like, no, like, what are you doing now that you're out of high school? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't know. Maybe go to art school or something. He's like, well, do you want to come work for me and help me out? Sure.
Like, hell yeah.
I was like, yeah, sure. Like, I got a job with my neighbor. How easy is that? And then, just kept with that. But I would just tell 18-year-old photography Sean to find some structure. Maybe take some classes, or maybe.
I was going to say, in what sense?
Yeah, try to maybe take some classes, or because I'm all self-taught, and like looking back, like there's pros and cons, but I feel like never having a structure is like not the best.
For sure.
So I would say, yeah, take some classes, learn you something.
Yeah. I mean, I have a degree in YouTube University, and I think you do too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty
well versed.
Pretty well versed in the YouTube verse.
Yeah, I think, and then if I had anything photography wise, it would. I know, because I think the feeling thing does correlate to photography as well.
Yeah.
But wanted to do some more recommendations that we've had recently. I think this is something we want to do every episode. Sean came up with 3 great categories.
First, we got tech recs.
And then anything like photography related?
Anything photography related, or anything in the sense of, I guess we could call it like work as well, but tech rec sounds cool. And then we also, second category is food recs or drink.
Food/drink recommendations.
Here in Las Vegas, of course.
Yep. And then the last one was, we don't have a name, but kind of like a chill rec. Anything that we've done recently that helped us chill and relax, like a movie, music.
Yeah, non-work related for once.
Yeah. So if you want to kick it off, what is your first tech rec?
Tech rec are these little ties. They're basically a little zip tie, if you will, but they're good for cords. You could probably use them for a number of things, but I use them just to wrap up my light cords or extension cords. Super easy to throw on, and I got them on Amazon, and they come in like a pack of maybe 10. So yeah, these are great. I don't know any of them.
I have the same ones.
You don't remember what they're called?
Cable ties. I think they're Think Tank cable ties.
Yeah.
If I'm thinking correctly.
So yeah, maybe we'll try to find a link after this and throw them in the bio.
Yeah, I'm sure Amazon's got like an off-brand name version, which is cool.
These are great.
But I bought a bunch of those a few years ago, and I still have them, and like they hold up really well. I haven't broken any of them.
Yeah. What about you? What do you got?
Some sort of differentiating between charged and uncharged batteries.
Oh, that's a good one.
So I use just the battery cover that comes with the batteries. So if the battery cover is on, it is charged. If the battery cover is floating around randomly in my backpack, it is not charged.
Ah, that's genius. Yeah.
Pretty simple, but yeah.
Very effective. Yeah, I used to throw mine in a different compartment of my bag, but I love the cap idea. Or another one I learned recently was the rubber band.
Yeah, I've never heard of that, but that's awesome.
Yeah, rubber band on the charged batteries. So shout out to Mike and Dave from Made Good for that little tip.
Nice. Yeah, a bag of rubber bands is like $1.
Yeah, but get any way to identify charge or not charge, because regardless of the shoot, the last thing you want to do is grab a dead battery, throw it in your camera or monitor, and realize it is dead. So
yeah,
little things that help us. Next, I got food recommendation. What do you got?
Yeah, so a dope local spot I just went to. It's called Proper Sandwiches. It's on Rainbow and Patrick. My girlfriend and I go to this puppy supply store right next door.
Okay.
And we kept walking by. We're like, oh shit, it's still closed. It's still closed. And they finally just opened, and it's super good. I think the guy who owns it is Kevin, I think was his name. Probably not. Probably something else. But he was cool. He was super cool. One time we even went in there and they got cleaned out by like a soccer team. And he
oh, that's good.
He had us come in, and then he was like, oh, I'm so sorry, guys. We're like, we have literally nothing to give you guys. So he gave us like some free sodas. So shouts out to that place. They have a really good banh mi sandwich. They have a good Italian.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, it's right. Yeah.
Right near your house, yeah.
Yeah. What about you, food-wise?
First that comes to the top of my brain is Oscar's Steakhouse at Plaza Hotel.
It's like a staple for you guys, right?
It is a staple. It is a steakhouse, so it's a little more date nighty than their sandwich place. But I love going to Oscar's. They have great drinks and good food. They also have a really cool view. The restaurant used to be actually a pool back in the day.
Oh, wow.
Back in like, I'm going to say 60s, but I'm probably wrong. But it used to be a pool which overlooked Fremont.
Okay.
So now it's Oscar's Steakhouse and has a nice view of, like I said, Fremont, well, from what you can see.
Nice.
But yeah.
I've heard great things about it. I haven't made it over there yet.
They have a really good burger as well.
Okay.
Even though they are a steakhouse.
Yeah.
Their Oscar's burger, I think it's Oscar's burger. Again,
Nice.
I could be wrong.
It's all good. As long as we get the right restaurant name so people can check it out.
Restaurant name. So yeah, Oscar's Steakhouse is my food rec this week.
Nice. And then the chill rec, I just saw the new Batman.
Oh.
Which is pretty rad. It's 3 hours. It's pretty long. But if you do like Batman like I do, like the Christopher Nolan movies were amazing and everything. So this is like a totally different take on it. It was a good time, and it was like darker and more.
Oh, really?
Okay, so for instance, in the Nolan movies, you have Bruce Wayne. He's a very eccentric billionaire. Mm-hmm. He's Christian Bale. He's handsome, yoked, looks great. And then in the newer Batman, it's a little more playing into how Bruce Wayne is a recluse.
Ooh.
And it has Robert Pattinson play him, which is like perfect.
Right.
So it's like more dark and moody. And then the movie it reminded me of like a video game almost. Not necessarily, some of the cityscapes looked a little video gamey, but just the way it's shot. Like if you ever play video games, there's a lot of cutscenes.
Right.
And the way they tell the stories, it really reminded me of that. And it was cool. It felt a little more comic booky, and I was into it. It's a nice change of pace from the Nolan movies, because I've watched probably all three of the Nolan movies like hundreds of times.
Dang, okay.
That's my, hey babe, what do you want to watch? Oh, you don't know? Let's watch one of the Batmans.
I got the perfect thing for us, hon.
Batman Begins for the 100th time. Let's do it. What about you?
What's the word? Trials? So we I wouldn't say finished, because I think we're still like current, but we started watching The Girl from Plainsville.
Okay.
Again, I should probably know the title of these things, but it's the story about, I don't even remember her name. I think Michelle. But anyway, it's the story about the girl and a guy, teenagers, who he had killed himself. in the car, and she was like on the phone texting him and telling him get back in the car and do it. And so it's going through that trial.
Damn, pretty heavy.
Pretty heavy. So that was interesting.
Sounds very relaxing.
Yes, very relaxing. With a nice paired with a nice pasta. But watching that one, which is pretty good though. I like those trial movies. They're like, what's the word? They're interesting. Like they're not as documentary because my wife hates documentaries.
Okay.
But they're like, it's like a good middle for us both.
Speaking of trials, I've been, it's kind of embarrassing. I've been watching so much of the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial on YouTube.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Dude, it's so interesting. And like Johnny Depp is just, he just oozes like just swag.
Right.
And like, I don't know about class. Yeah, class. He's just so sick. Like he just the way that like he speaks to the attorneys and stuff is just hilarious. I highly put on like a compilation on YouTube, and he's just like picking apart the people that are in what is it called?
The
cross-examining him.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he's just picking them apart. It's hilarious. It's just
I've seen parts of it. Yeah, where they had like asked him, like there was a moment like, oh, you were drunk, and he was like, oh, were you there?
My favorite one was he's like, Johnny, and it says that this is a box you stored cocaine in, and he's like, that box does look like it would fit a good amount of cocaine in it. I'm like,
it's a good way to answer. It's like, I don't know if there's coke in it, but that looks like a good box to store coke.
Yeah. So that's been another thing that's just been, Crystal and I has had us just giggling in bed every night.
I was trying to fill Ivana in on that, but I didn't have the information. So I was like, hey, have you seen what's going on with Johnny Depp? And she's like, no, what? And I'm like, well, he's like on trial, but like so far it's like he's not like being accused. Like it's actually like her in this case. Like she seems like the bad one. And I'm like, it's just interesting.
Well, I just got the full story. He's actually suing her in a defamation case because she wrote an article which didn't name him, but it was about him and how she accused him of domestic violence, and it's basically, there's another word for it, but she basically slandered his name,
right?
And he lost roles because of it. So he's suing her for $50 million as a defamation case.
Wow, I don't know about you, but I don't have that kind of money floating around.
Yeah, me either.
Local recommendations, local artists.
Anyone
you want to highlight?
Just got to recommend, one of my best friends, Sammy Dean Photo. He's a really great up-and-coming photographer here in town, and he's really good with flying drones and really good with the FPV stuff. He just got hired to do Tao Beach opening weekend. He was flying for them.
Nice.
Just one of the homies, great guy overall. And, if you ever have any photography or FPV needs, reach out to him.
Yeah, we'll throw up some of his work. Amazing nightlife photos.
Yeah.
It'll speak for itself when we throw
them up. He's one of those guys which I really respect. I think he falls in your category. He had a full-time normal job.
Right.
And then he decided to make that transition as an adult. Like me, I got lucky. I was still, 19, 20. Mm-hmm. But he was a full adult, and he was a bartender. He's like, what? Fuck this. Like, I can do photography full time. Yeah. And he got up and got after it just like you did. So, that's why I got so much respect for you guys.
Thank you. It's weird how I look at the camera when you say that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What about you?
Today I'm going to throw up Francis Santos. He worked at Feature for like 10 years.
Yeah.
He was the lead photographer there. But I love his editorial work. Again, I'll highlight him. We'll throw up some of his work.
Because I didn't even know that was his last. I didn't even know his last name. I just knew by his Instagram name.
Yeah,
Francis, right?
Freaking Francis.
Yeah. Okay.
Shout out to Freaking Francis. I know his last name because we're actually on production shoot this coming week. So
sick.
It says his full name in the email. Yeah.
I met him on a shoot, and he was super rad. And I saw his work. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like it's so clean and so. That's another guy or another person who I look at his work. I'm like, oh, it's Francis's work. I do with yours. It's cool.
Definitely has his own little sauce for sure. But yeah, we're gonna have to highlight Sam and Francis for this week's
the homies
pod. For this week's patent pending pod.
Yeah. Yeah, let us know if there's any constructive criticism too.
Yeah.
We put up some moving blankets to try to help with dampening some of this echo that was in this room.
Yeah.
Still figuring out sound stuff.
Still figuring it all out. You know, it's only episode 2.
Yeah.
Technically episode 3, but you never saw the first one. So
Yeah, this is 2.5.
2.5. And yeah, also if you'd like to be on the podcast and we haven't already kind of talked to you to schedule something, let us know. Like I said, we're trying to talk to as many people as possible.
Yeah, and like we said before, I really want to drive that local narrative, that community. Like, it's not a versus, it's, we're all here to help and look out for each other and help each other out. So cool. I think that's it, man.
I think we'll cut it there.
Alrighty.